Hey everybody, welcome to Dracom Tries Racing. We're playing a bit of Forza multiplayer today. One race in the touring cars, one race in the GT Series. Playing in dash cam on the wheels, so I'm going to try to show that to you as we start this first race in P13. No qualifying lap set for this one. We get a pretty good launch as we pass a couple cars on our outside here coming into the first turn. Proximity arrow is going a bit wild, not really sure where people are, so trying to avoid contact. Dip into the pit, exit a little bit. In fact, the Hyundai there dipping all the way on the inside, which is a bit of an exploit here at this track right now. It won't penalize you for doing so, this track being mid-Ohio, of course. Into the first hairpin, we have a little bit of rubbing coming in, and a couple cars go off into the gravel. But for Forza, that was actually pretty tidy, so hopefully we'll see this race settle down pretty early. Into turn 3, we're in P11 behind the Honda and Hyundai. Start to get a bit curious how things are going to look going into a more technical part of the track. See the Honda brake a bit early, throws the Hyundai inside, they go flying off track, gives us a bit of an opportunity. We look on the outside, but we are kind of far back, not able to get the move done. Gonna fall back behind for now. Thinking we can get the pass done soon though. Thinking we might get an opportunity on the inside here. I start to stick the nose in, but no, a little contact, we're gonna back off. Gonna try to take my time as we have a lot of race left. And as we settle, I start to kind of think the wheel doesn't feel quite right, and remembered that the game actually crashed before this race. I had to reopen and join a new session quickly before it timed out, which was actually why I didn't set a qualifying time on this one. But an unfortunate side effect of that is the input buttons on my wheel are different now, because Forza on PC has a bit of an issue where your inputs aren't saved, so sometimes you have to reset them on launch. But I digress. As we come into the second lap, looking into the first turn, I'm thinking this could be an opportunity, but unfortunately I botch it quite a bit, end up going very wide, over the curve, into the grass, lose the position. They begin to battle, going back into the keyhole. Regain my composure, somebody looking on the inside behind, which makes me a little nervous going into the turn, but the two cars in front actually have a bit of an incident instead, lose a lot of speed. Oh, a little bit of rubbing with the car next to me, but coming out of the turn, we're definitely going to have the run on the Honda now, which is going to take us back up into P10. This is where the inputs changing on my wheel are definitely going to have an impact, because I usually use the two yellow buttons on the outside to be able to look left and right, but instead I'm going to be a bit blind going into turn 4. I brake late trying to make the pass. See, they fall back to 3/10. That's usually the safe area to pass, and it doesn't really matter anyway. An incident happens in front of us. We gain another position up into P9 now, and we want to look to close the gap quickly to P8. As we can see, P6 and P7 maybe starting to battle ahead of us. After a couple turns there, we definitely closed it down. We're a lot closer behind, but not a whole lot we can do here for a moment. Just trying to kind of wait for an opportunity to go past. Thinking maybe we'll get it into the carousel. See KT go a bit wide. Want to try to nip underneath, but I'm a little too far back and he closes it down. Try to get onto the power early here to get around, but end up a little too much. Have to back off, risk of going into the grass. Into turn 1, I'm a little deep, missed the apex, definitely don't end up getting any run on the cars ahead, but I do notice that none of them dip down into the pit exit. It's nice for me to see right now, and also I think it's probably best to not get used to it. Turn 10 might patch that. But anyways, we're back into the keyhole. We'll see P7 goes wide, that gives us another position, allows us to take over P8. And I'm kind of noticing KT's pace isn't too bad here. I'm thinking maybe the two of us will catch up to P6. From there, I'd hope that maybe they'd engage in a bit of a battle and that we could capitalize on that. But as we come down into turn 4, it's not really going to matter. KT is going to go wide. It's going to take him into the grass. It's going to give us a free position up into P7. And now all we have to do for the next little bit here is just try to close that gap to P6. We've got plenty of race left, although at this point I definitely don't think I'm going to be catching up to the leader. I'm noticing he's slowly pulling ahead as we continue to lap. But for now, we're only a second behind P6, so we're going to look to close that as fast as we can. Try to focus on taking a few good corners here. Now, before we get up to the carousel, I'm going to go a little hard. It's going to take me into the grass, but I keep the car under control and actually still end up managing closing the gap a lot through the carousel. Now we're going to be down to only about 3/10 as we cross the line. Now they're going to go defensive into turn 1. They definitely don't want me on their inside, and I probably was too far back anyway, but we end up getting a bit close. They dip down into the pit exit. Don't really blame them though, just trying to avoid contact. And we're actually going to get a bit of a run into the keyhole here. They go defensive again, so I have to take the outside. I hit the brake late, try to hold the outside line. We're side by side going through the turn. And on the exit here, we're going to see I accidentally hit the handbrake because I'm trying to look to my right. Input mapping's changed. That's going to give them the run going on to turn 3 here and allow them to go back ahead. So we got to fall back behind, maybe make the move again later. Coming into turns 4 and 5, we're going to see I'm going to try to play with the line a little bit, just to see if I can get a run. Go wide here, trying to see if I can get back underneath with the run. It works a little bit, but we're not going to quite be there. Let's try it again here, but they're going to park it right on the apex. Have to slow down a little. Try to nip my nose on the inside there, but it's a little risky. Would end it up in the grass, so backed off. We have a decent run coming into turn 11, and we're going to see that they end up going a bit wide, slide just a little bit. That's going to give us the opportunity to come alongside. We'll brake a little late going into the carousel, try to hold the outside line. I noticed that they end up being about 3/10 behind. That means we're safe to come back over in front, and that's the move done up into P5. At the beginning of the 5th lap, I'm feeling pretty good. We started P13, now we're in P5. We can see we still have about a 6-second gap or so to P4, lots of space, but we'll see. With a lot of open track ahead of us, thinking maybe I can start to close this down. There's a lot of race left. There's still a pit that has to be done. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and let this lap play out. We'll see if I'm able to close down the gap at all, and I'll see you here in just a minute. So now towards the end of this lap, we'll see that gap definitely came down, even into the 3s, but I think I made a big mistake here. I saw my tires hit that yellow point of wear, thought maybe I should go ahead and take the pit. But in hindsight, I really think I could have stayed out for one more lap and probably pulled down the time a little bit more. But instead, we're going to end up coming out onto the track. A few people are going to have passed us. It means we're going to have to do some work again. And an unfortunate side effect of that is I think it's probably going to slow us down. Sure enough, we end up with a couple cars just ahead of us here. We've already passed them earlier in the race, and their tires definitely have to be straining a little bit at this point. So even though we have our fresh tires, we're going to end up a little bit locked behind them here. Luckily, right off the bat, Hyundai is going to go a bit wide into the grass. It's definitely going to give us the run going into turn 3. Pretty easy pass there, not a lot of time lost, and now we're just heading up to P7. Being about 2.5 seconds ahead, I wonder how long this might take, but we'll kind of see as we go towards the end of the lap. It closes pretty fast. Probably really due to the difference in tires. Theirs are pretty worn out, mine are fresh. But we also see a little glimpse of P6 there, so we're really not too far behind. Just gotta really focus on closing down these gaps and getting back up to where we were. Now coming back towards the carousel, I definitely get a good run. I'm looking on his outside because I'm thinking maybe I can get back under the inside on the exit. Fortunately for me, they decide to go on into the pits, making for a really easy pass back up into P6. Now we've got a lot of open track ahead of us, definitely a few laps to go. We're going to see that we're about 6 seconds behind P5 here, but I'm going to go ahead and skip to the last lap because honestly not a lot changed. We did end up getting up to P5 just because someone else pitted, but as we can see we do still have about 6 seconds to P4 in front of us, so we didn't end up gaining a lot of ground. However, this lap is going to be interesting. We can see my front tire wear is a little rough, but one benefit of actually using the wheel is that it tends to be a little less aggressive on your tires than if you're using the controller. We can already see the gap to P4 here is starting to come down a little bit. I'm thinking they're probably a little too far ahead, but going into turn 4 here, they have a bit of an incident and immediately is going to close that gap down to about 2.5 seconds. Suddenly my mindset starts to change a little bit. I can notice that tire wear is really getting to him. So even though I've got a little bit of tire wear myself, I really want to focus on these next few turns, see if I can keep closing it down. It's coming down 10th by 10th. Their tires must be really rough at this point. We're already down to a second. And I noticed they also have a 10th of a second penalty, so worst case scenario, maybe we can win a drag race to the finish. But it's not really going to matter. As we come into these last few corners, the gap all but disappears here. I look to the outside, their tire wear takes them out there as well. I'm able to come right back underneath, get a last second P4, and cross the finish line. So that ended up being a pretty fun race for me. We were able to gain 9 positions there, but we can see the Veloster ahead of us actually gained 13. Good on them. But now we're going to head into the second race at VIR in the GT Series. Going to drive the Ford in this one, which is a car I haven't had too much experience with, but we did get a qualifying time in on this one at P2 in the field. I noticed there were only 12 players in this one. I think throughout the week people were more hesitant to join the VIR sessions. Definitely can be one of the scarier ones, and as we go into turn 1 we kind of immediately get pushed outside, a couple guys inside. For some reason it gives us a warning on collision contact. Very possible, it's just a little hard for me to see in the dash cam here. Luckily it didn't result in any actual penalties, but now we're going to settle into P3 behind the Corvette and Aston Martin here. Now things can get a little unpredictable around this track. There's a lot of fast sweeping corners. People can really get nervous through these. And we'll start to get a little bit of a glimpse of that as we start to head out towards the South Bend. I usually like to take these next few corners all out, but online that's just something we can't really do sometimes. You know, we don't know what they're going to do. We already see some tapping of brakes occurring here, and that ends up bringing us really close to their back end. But so far everything's holding together pretty well. We're just going to try to stay as close to them as we can for now. Coming down this back straight, things start to feel a little scary as there's a really big braking zone into a hairpin. Seen on Forza and a lot of racing games in general, it's always pretty scary because somebody might come right through, miss the braking point, obliterate everyone, but it actually stays really clean. Everybody did a good job there. I actually have a bit of a moment myself on the exit of that turn, get a bit loose, but recover it alright. And as we come down to the blind uphill braking point into the spiral, we'll see that the leader ends up going into the grass. That's unfortunate. Pretty much ends his race there, but puts us back up into P2 behind the Corvette, right where we started. This track can be pretty difficult to pass on. It's pretty narrow, there's a lot of corners. We're definitely going to have to try to be careful on any attempts to pass. But I'd say overall things went pretty well for a little while here. I'm going to let it play out for a minute, at least until the end of the first lap. Coming into the first turn on the second lap, I was definitely nervous. We were close to the guy in front, only half a second ahead of the guy behind, but everybody did a really good job there. No contact, got through it cleanly. I have to admit I'm pretty surprised, but happy it turned out this way. But anyways, we're still sitting here behind Cut Killer in the vet, trying to stay close in tow. Trying to think about any good spots to get around him, but like I said earlier, it can be pretty hard to pass here as it's narrow and quick. This is where things definitely started to feel scary for me. I was really close to his back end. You can see I'm trying to look around so I can see where we're going. I also don't know how he's going to behave through here, and as we see, there is that brake tap. I really like to go full speed, but I have to back off. And going into this turn, I feel like he broke really early. Little bit of contact puts me off. Actually doesn't affect him too much, luckily. Bi-Arrow goes way off the track to try to avoid. Unfortunately, this drops me down into P3. I'm just really glad it didn't cause a bigger incident. But now we've got two Corvettes out in front. We've got to try to chase them down again. Going down the back straight, we're getting a lot of speed going towards the hairpin. I'm kind of wondering if maybe they'll end up in an incident and that'll help me catch up, but it actually doesn't end up being the case. They both hit the brake zone really well, show each other some respect going around the corner. It does slow them down a little bit. Now we go down into the more technical part of the track. Maybe we can close the gap. No immediate incidents here though, like there were on lap 1, so we kind of fall in behind, just trying to stay as close as we can. I also noticed that we have Grim Sniper behind us, only half a second as well, so it's a pretty close race between the top 4. Coming down to the next section of S's, we get the Michelin sign thrown right off. We don't need those tires, and we actually see a little gap open up. We try to squeeze on through. It's really narrow, just a tiny bit of contact. End up going through to take the position here. Pretty tight on that one, but it puts us back up into P2, once again where we started. Towards the end of the lap, things are going to get a little shaky for me. I'm going to go around this turn and I'm going to get a little loose. It's going to throw me off. I'm going to end up going outside. A couple tires are going to go into the grass. Having trouble getting it back on. Barely managed to. Going to end up going into the grass again. In this spot in particular, it's always scary. You can really get thrown out into the field. But that lets a couple cars go by, puts us back into P4. In fact, we have the Major Yid come up next to us, and we're going to end up dropping all the way to P5 as he passes us on the straight. Coming down in the first corner though, I feel like I see an opportunity. I brake a little late to go on the inside, however it takes me a bit deep. The Major Yid kind of sees it happen. He nips back underneath me for the good old switcheroo. A good move, Major Yid. I will graciously fall back behind you. Now we've got a lot of ground to cover just to even get back to where we started, but we've got 3 cars close ahead, a full lap to go. Maybe we can make it happen. We're going to stay pretty close behind the Major Yid here. We know we've got those really fast S's coming up ahead towards the south bend. Get a little bit loose here coming out towards them, but still manage to stay behind, gaining a little bit by bit, but we're actually going to back off because our visibility is really low. Don't want to end up hitting anybody, and maybe we can get some good exit speed on the other side. And in fact, we're actually going to see that happen through this next turn. We're going to get a good run on the Major Yid. We're looking up the inside, it's not really there. We switch back out to the outside. Not a whole lot we can do though till the exit of this corner, just trying to focus on getting at a good spot so we can re-accelerate or really go over the curb here, get a good run. We're gonna make the pass. I really enjoyed that race between the two of us, and apparently he did too, saying the good race there. I actually need to get those little comments set up on my wheel so I can respond. But anyways, now we're back into P4. We've got a few cars ahead trying to catch up, and we're actually going to see here the Grim Sniper really getting loose. I'm thinking maybe he had the softs for the race, and at this point they're really experiencing some wear. But we're going to come back behind nonetheless, and the gap's going to close quick. He's really getting loose, but there's just not a whole lot of space to get around him. I'm trying to settle behind. I don't want to end up accidentally spinning him off. And at this point, I feel like number 2 is probably too far ahead, probably not worth pushing it too much. Maybe there'll be an opportunity coming up here. But that car looks like it's getting really hard to control, and not a whole lot of the lap left. I can only imagine they're thinking, please, 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 just let me make it to the end. But as we come up towards the turns, going the roller coaster, he's going to leave a little bit of gap on the inside. I'm going to try to take it, brake a little late, actually lock just a tiny bit here, but it's just so tight on this track. But it'll put me back up into P3 here to round out the lap, and honestly I barely hold it together through these last bits. I almost went off last lap. Fortunately though, stay on the track and I can close it out. And at this point that's going to bring us on into the finish in P3. So definitely a stressful race on that one, and I ended up losing a position, but I still had a lot of fun. And I felt like there was really good racing there between everybody. But that's going to bring us into the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm enjoying making some of these videos at the moment, so we'll see how it develops. But for now, we'll see you next time.